I've never been one for ghost stories. Not the ones whispered behind closed doors during hospital breaks. Not the tales about the East Wing where something bad happened, and definitely not the viral Reddit posts where strangers swap frightening encounters in medical settings. I was a nurse. I believed in science, in steady heartbeats on monitors, in sterile gloves, in cold, metal instruments, and in the very tangible reality of saving lives. At least, that's what I thought I believed. I grew up in a quiet Indiana town, the kind where everyone knows your name and secrets don't stay secrets for long. My earliest memories involve trailing after my mother, who worked at the local nursing home. I was the quiet kid who sat in a corner coloring or reading, while mom checked IV lines, adjusted oxygen tanks, and soothed the confused or restless elderly residents. By the time I was 10, I could take a pulse, wrap a bandage, and knew the names of most medications mom administered. I admired her gentle patience and the small victories she won every day. There was never a question about what I'd become. Nursing was in my blood. I studied hard, earned my degree, passed the NCLX on my first try, and took my first job at a mid-sized hospital 2 hours from home. It was a decent place, understaffed, chaotic, and exhausting, but I thrived in the rhythm of it. Then came the transfer offer that felt like a dream. St. Mirabel Medical Center, a brand new state-of-the-art hospital on the edge of Chicago. Better pay, better benefits, cutting-edge equipment. I didn't hesitate. Looking back now, I wish I had. St. Mirabel was everything a modern hospital should be. Sleek glass facades reflecting the city skyline, spotless polished floors that echoed under my footsteps, soft ambient piano music in the lobby, and touchscreen kiosks that made navigating the building feel almost futuristic. It had been open for only about 10 years, funded by a wealthy pharmaceutical donor who wanted the best technology money could buy. Nothing about it was old. Nothing about it looked or felt haunted. But from the first week on the floor, a subtle, unshakable feeling tugged at the edges of my senses. There was one unspoken rule I learned quickly: don't question the double rounds. It was a phrase whispered among the night nurses in hushed tones, with nervous glances over their shoulders. They explained it as a strange anomaly, where once or twice a month a nurse would document having checked on a patient, cleaned them, monitored vitals, only for the next shift to find the patient untouched, or sometimes even coded as deceased. Mistakes? Fatigue? The official explanation was yes, but the tone said otherwise. Don't bother correcting it, my preceptor said one night, her voice barely a whisper. They don't like being overwritten. I asked who they were. She just shook her head. My third week, I was assigned to the cardiac step-down unit. The night was quiet but for the hum of machines and the occasional beep from monitors. Around 2 a.m., I saw him, an elderly man in a hospital gown, barefoot, wandering down the hall. He didn't belong to me. I had no geriatric patients that night, but he looked frail, confused, like he'd wandered in from another world. "Sir?" I called gently. He didn't respond, only turned the corner near the nurse's station. I followed quickly, heart pounding. The hallway was empty, no patient rooms open, no staff in sight. I checked every door, called security to review footage. The video showed me walking alone, no sign of the old man anywhere. As days turned into weeks, the strange occurrences multiplied. Elevators would arrive on floors no one called for, the lights flickering eerily, equipment beeped in rooms that were empty. Monitors suddenly spiked or flatlined for no reason. Patients whispered about the lady in white, a silent figure who sat watching them sleep. Some said she cried, others said she smiled, but all said she was there, always there. I heard rumors of a patient who died during the hospital's construction, an old woman who had somehow wandered onto the site, thinking it was still her old neighborhood. Floor 7 was closed off for renovations, but no one was ever assigned there. Still late at night, the elevator light would blink 7, the doors sliding open with a hiss, but no one inside. I began keeping a journal, not because I expected anyone to believe me, but because I needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. March 3rd, 2:04 a.m. The call light in room 612 blinked. The patient had died hours ago. The room was cleaned and locked. When I opened the door, the bed was unmade, as if someone had been lying there. The antiseptic smell was thick, mixed with something floral like lilac perfume. March 9th, 3:15 a.m. A patient coded, CPR unsuccessful. Time of death, 3:11 a.m. 3 minutes later, the heart monitor beeped again, flatline shifting to a steady 75 BPM. We rushed in, but the body was cold. Still, dead. 2 months in, things got worse. A patient in room 603, an older woman with late-stage pancreatic cancer, kept murmuring about someone standing in the corner. I chalked it up to pain meds and fever delirium, but then she grabbed my arm, hard. Her eyes were wide, glassy, fixed on me. She said, "You don't belong here. You'll join them if you stay too long." She died peacefully an hour later, or so I thought. At 4:07 a.m., I noticed her chart had updated itself. New vitals, blood pressure, oxygen levels. No one had touched the chart. She was already in the morgue. That night, something inside me broke. I handed in my resignation the next day. No one was surprised. Most nurses at St. Mirabel don't last more than 6 months. During my exit interview, I tried to hint at what I'd seen, at the feelings I couldn't explain. The HR rep smiled, too perfectly. "The building remembers everyone who works here," she said softly. "Some more than others." I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't want to know. It's been over a year since I left St. Mirabel. I work at a small rural hospital now. Quiet, simple, normal. But sometimes when the night is still and the hospital hums softly, I swear I hear the faint beep of a heart monitor in the silence. Sometimes my phone lights up with a blinking call light alert. Room 603. There's no such room here. If there's one thing I've learned, no matter how much science you believe in, some places keep their secrets, and some ghosts, they never leave. My name's Jason Miller. I'm 28, from a small town where dirt roads outnumber streetlights. I never planned to work nights at a gas station, but life doesn't hand out dream jobs. After losing my retail gig to budget cuts, I needed steady hours, so I took a job at Hollow Creek gas station, a remote little outpost about 30 miles from the nearest town. The pay was decent, the hours predictable, and honestly, I thought it'd be easy. Hollow Creek sits on the edge of nowhere. The highway is mostly empty at night, except for the occasional long-haul truck or a lost traveler. The gas station is the only place open after dark, a lone island of flickering fluorescent lights and old pumps that look like they belonged in another decade. The manager warned me about the nights. "Quiet," he said, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Too quiet sometimes. You'll get used to it." I didn't. The first few weeks were slow, dull. No cars, no customers. Just me, the hum of the refrigerators, the buzz of fluorescent lights, and the occasional distant rumble of a truck. But that silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, like it pressed against my skin and settled in my chest. One night, just before midnight, the bell jingled. A woman stepped in, shoulders slumped and eyes red-rimmed, like she hadn't slept in days. She looked exhausted, broken even. "Phone," she said, voice cracking. "Is there a phone I can use? My car's dead." I pointed her toward the payphone near the back. She lingered by the window, staring out at the woods beyond the station, but never used the phone. After a few minutes, she thanked me quietly and left as fast as she'd come. I never saw her again. Another night, a young man showed up around 1 a.m., twitchy, jittery, clutching a worn leather bag like it was his last lifeline. He bought a soda, but his eyes never stopped darting around nervously. "Have you heard the voices?" he asked in a whisper. "Out there in the woods, whispers calling your name?" I forced a laugh, but the look in his eyes told me he wasn't joking. "Voices? What do you mean?" His panic deepened. I thought I was losing it, but maybe I'm not. He left the soda on the counter and disappeared before I could ask more. Then a man came in with a heavy coat, his face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. His hands trembled violently as he paid in cash. "Keep your eyes open," he said, voice low, almost a warning. "Open for what?" I asked, but he just stared a moment longer and walked out into the night without another word. Each encounter tightened the knot in my stomach. These weren't just odd people passing through. They seemed like they were running from something, or maybe warning me about it. And then there was the note taped behind the counter. Don't stay after midnight, no signature, no explanation. I asked the manager if he knew anything about it. Probably a prank, he said, brushing it off. Kids messing around. I didn't believe him. The woods surrounding the station felt alive in a way I couldn't explain. Branches snapping, twigs crunching underfoot, shadows flickering just beyond the reach of the light. Once I saw a faint light moving between the trees, like a flashlight, but no one ever appeared. The quiet wasn't empty, it was waiting. Sleep stopped coming. I'd lie awake during the day, heart pounding, replaying the whispers, the customers' haunted eyes, the footsteps outside. I caught myself staring out the window, willing something to make sense. I wondered if I was losing my mind. One night, around 12:45 a.m., the power flickered and went out. The emergency lights buzzed weakly. I sat frozen behind the counter, hearing soft whispers and footsteps crunching gravel. The payphone started ringing, once, twice, over and over. When I picked it up, all I heard was static. Then that voice again. Don't stay after midnight. Suddenly the pumps shut off. The digital displays blinked erratically, flashing what looked like warnings in scrambled letters. I grabbed my keys and ran to my car, heart hammering. When I looked back, I saw fresh footprints leading from the edge of the woods straight to the gas station door. I left Hollow Creek that night and never looked back. I don't believe in ghosts or curses. I'm not superstitious, but Hollow Creek broke something in me, made me question what's real when you're alone and the silence becomes loud. I called the manager the next day to explain. He sighed, told me others had quit with similar stories. It's an old place, he said. Maybe you were just stressed. I tried talking to the previous attendant. She shut me down quick. Some things are better left alone, she said, her voice tight with fear. Friends and family laughed it off. Just a creepy old gas station, they said. But that night, in that dark little station, I felt something I can't explain, something waiting in the silence. And sometimes when I'm alone, I still hear that whisper in my ear. Don't stay after midnight. My name's Daniel Reed. I'm a freelance writer, or at least that's what I told myself. Articles, blog posts, ghostwriting autobiographies for folks who want their stories told but don't have the time or skill to do it themselves. Just another gig to pay the bills. Nothing special. But the truth, the job I thought I had wasn't quite what I signed up for. A few months ago, after losing my full-time editorial job at a small magazine, I decided to jump headfirst into freelancing. I signed up on a few platforms, sent out pitches, and waited. Then I saw the ad that changed everything. Ghostwriter needed for life stories, immediate start, remote work, generous pay. It sounded perfect. Flexible hours, good money, and the chance to focus on writing full-time. I didn't realize how much my life was about to unravel. My first client was Mrs. Evelyn Marks, an elderly woman wanting her memoir written before she passed. Our conversations started routine enough. She spoke about childhood in the 1940s, raising 3 kids, her late husband, small moments of joy and sorrow. But even then, there was something off. Her voice held a distant sadness, like she was speaking from far away, not just physically, but from some other place entirely. One call sticks with me. She paused and whispered, "Some stories aren't meant to be told, Daniel." I asked what she meant, but she changed the subject quickly, her voice trembling. I pushed the thought away. I was just doing my job. After Evelyn, more clients came in, each with a story, but some were strange, unsettling. Richard was one of them. He wanted me to write his wife's story. When I asked how she was, he told me flatly, "She died 6 months ago." I laughed it off, thinking it was a joke, but the recordings he sent me were chilling. His wife's voice was faint, distant, almost a whisper. Sometimes, in the background, I thought I heard faint sobbing. Then there was Alice, who claimed her family home had been in their bloodline for centuries, but spoke of events in the 1800s as if they were yesterday. Their voices were always soft, sad, as if they were trying to reach me from far away. One night, after a long day of writing, I found a small folded note slipped under my door. In shaky handwriting, it said, "Tell my story before it's too late." No name, no return address. I wanted to believe it was a prank, but the chill in my chest said otherwise. That night, and many nights after, I couldn't shake the feeling I wasn't alone. At first it was small things. A whisper from the hallway, a shadow flickering just beyond my sight. I caught myself talking aloud, asking, "Who's there?" only to hear silence in response. One night, while writing late, my screen flickered. I thought I saw a face reflected, pale, worn, staring at me from the darkness behind. I rubbed my eyes. Nothing. Curiosity turned to horror when I Googled one client's name, an obituary. They died years ago. How were they contacting me? Who was sending the files, the voice recordings, the notes? It was Richard again. I answered a late-night call. His voice was a whisper. "Thank you for telling her story, Daniel." Then static, then silence. I stared at the phone, shaking. Why me? Why had I been chosen? Was I just a writer, or a vessel for the stories of those who no longer had voices? The more I wrote, the more I felt their presence. Cold spots in my apartment, footsteps echoing when I was alone. Now every night is a battle. I write to survive, but also to give voice to the forgotten. Each story leaves a mark, a shadow on my soul. Sometimes, when the room is quiet and the world still, I hear it again. Tell my story before it's too late, and I know I can't stop. But the feeling lingered. I became paranoid. I double-checked locks obsessively, jumped at creaks, and found myself unable to sleep without the lights on. Work consumed me. I started mixing up details from stories, blurring fact and fiction. Friends noticed. "Daniel, you look terrible," my sister said during a video call. "You need a break." But I couldn't stop. Not now. If you enjoyed this chilling tale and want more stories that blur the line between reality and nightmare, subscribe to Whispers Horror, where every story is a whisper from the dark. Hit the bell so you never miss the next tale. Because sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones that might be true.